coaching call. Today, I just wanted to do a little bit of an exercise. I was chatting to a few farmers this week, and um, the common thing keeps coming up that people are struggling with, like what to do when, and priorities constantly changing. And I get it. Like I'm the same. That's why I have been in the startup world for a very long time, and business management and time management and managing teams in corporate. Lots of different frameworks have kind of come across my desk and my view, and some work and some don't. Um, when it comes to task management, I'm definitely someone who likes to just have like one blank piece of page and list everything that needs to be done, whether it be on a whiteboard, same difference, get it all done. But what happens sometimes is it becomes a little bit overwhelming. There's just so much on the list, and you don't know where to go next. And I wanted to kind of just highlight a framework. And I was talking to a friend the other day as well about this and shared a link. And that's why it's a little bit top of mind, because I keep hearing that people are feeling a bit overwhelmed, and the world is throwing all these random things to us at the moment, whether it be, food security shortages and issues, and cost of living and inflation, and everything at the moment, foot and mouth disease. It's just a little bit of a whirlwind of thoughts and decision fatigue. And, very quickly you might be doing one task and then have to be taken off to a complete task. So it's really important to kind of understand what needs to get done. And for me, it's about removing it from my brain to remove brain fatigue and brain fog, and putting it or parking it somewhere. And so, I used to call my to-do list like the getting shit done list and things like that, but not everything gets done. And that's why I think it's, don't want to falsify the economy of that as well. But things that I do still call my list I like rocks and sand. I follow kind of like really important things that need to be done, and then sand, little things. So if I know that I've got a little bit of energy left, I can do a sand task. And then if I've got a flow state coming on, and I know that I want to do something that's a bit more bigger, I can go to the rock list. And instead of calling it a to-do list, I call it a doing list. Things that I'm going to be doing throughout the day or throughout the week. And sometimes the things will stay on the list for months. There's tasks on my list from the start of the year. And that's why I wanted to share this framework with everyone today. It's the 4 Ds of time management, or the 4 Ds of whatever. But I'll quickly share my screen to an article that I found, and the link to this article will be around as well, just so you can do some further kind of exploring on this. But the 4 Ds refers to basically being able to label things on your to-do list or your doing list that either like you need to do, things that you can defer, or this list calls delay. And then you can either sometimes delegate things on your list, like thinking about who can help you win or achieve on that task. And sometimes it might even be about delegating that task so it's 80% done, and then bringing it back to your do list so that way you finish it for the rest of the 20%. And then often than not, and this is what I find myself really struggling to do sometimes, is what do I delete or drop and don't even do? It's like completely not necessary. And if it's been on the list for 6 months, lingering around as a task, like really reflecting on it and going, is this still something that needs to be done, or can I just completely cross it off and forget that it exists? So really being mindful of those things. So that's the 4 Ds of time management: do, defer, delegate, or delete. So that is kind of like the framework that I wanted to introduce you to around this. And I don't think there's anything else more useful on this page apart from just highlighting what they are. And so the way that you would do this exercise, and it's kind of layered with another exercise of like Stephen Covey and the 4 quadrant of I'll just share this other worksheet that I've got here. Where'd it go? Bear with me. There it is. So the 4 quadrant is, finding out like whether your tasks are important tasks, non-important, and whether they are urgent or not urgent. And so the 4Ds fits into this as well quite nicely because, if there's a task that's not urgent and not important, then maybe it's something that really needs to be considered to be deleted. Maybe it's, I always like to reflect when doing a task of how does it make me feel after doing it? So for instance, when I do a coaching call or a webinar or a speaking event or a podcast, I feel on fire after those. And so that's definitely something that I love doing and puts me in my sweet spot. And so I want to do more of those type of things. But then some of the things like, writing the show notes and scheduling it for publishing, that's not so much what I enjoy doing. And so that's a task that I've delegated, and the team, and there's several people involved in that it's delegated to. So the video and audio editing is delegated to one person, then it goes on to the next person who schedules it and publishes it everywhere. And I'm involved in that as well because I still check each video, but that's, a way where I don't have to do the whole thing from start to end. And like one of the things that was really not working for us in the business was the transcriptions, getting the transcriptions edited so that they'll actually like human grammarly correct, because when you're using AI to convert text to speech, it just doesn't work great. And so we stopped doing transcriptions because one, a lot of people weren't clicking on it, and two, it was just taking a lot of time. And so there sometimes is a way of reflecting a process and all the moving parts to make something happen where you can kind of decide, okay, well, this is not working for the team. We're not got the time and effort and tools to make that viable. So then we just delete it. Shows normally go out on a Wednesday. Yesterday, I was a bit caught up. Today's a Thursday. Bella messaged me saying, have you checked the podcast? I said, no, I haven't. So I delayed it and it's coming out today. So it's okay to move things around and knowing that this is a very, important thing to do. And, like getting the podcast out would normally be urgent and important because we like to get the podcast out with consistency every Wednesday. And so normally it would sit in the do it important and urgent column. But with the certain events, and we started our microscope program this week, tasks just took a little bit longer to get done. And so we delayed it by 24 hours. So it's okay. So that's the kind of framework that I kind of like putting things in. One of the other things that I like to recommend is know like your flow states. Like if you're more of a night person, then do more of your important tasks or your rocks at the end of the day, or when you're in your sweet spot and your groove. And if that doesn't necessarily work well for everyone else, one of the reasons why we have remote staff is because I like the ability of like recording a podcast during the day, putting it into our cloud drive, and then someone who's in a different time zone edits the podcast while we're sleeping. So then when we wake up, it's all done. So that's like a nice way of getting something done that, it creates the ability that I can, this is one of the reasons why we can get podcasts produced really quickly, is because I can do a podcast today and then I can message our editor and say, hey, this is urgent, any chance of squeezing it in? And they will do it while we're sleeping. And then when I wake up in the morning, it's ready and for me to check and then move it to the next step. So, know when, you build a team and your processes so things can happen when you're sleeping or being more productive and things like that. So, normally I'll reply to emails when I'm waiting for someone to come to a meeting. Often than not, people don't arrive on time or they forget about the meeting. And so I'll wait for 15 minutes before I cancel it and reschedule it. And within that 15 minutes, I'm doing emails. I'm not sitting there waiting for them to arrive. And I'm not multitasking either because I've just got the Zoom room open. And when they arrive, it will make a noise. And while I'm waiting, I'm doing emails. And so, that's a way that I've been able to link doing emails, something that's not really that urgent, but kind of important because people need to get kind of replied to, but I can slide that into ways where I can be a little bit more efficient. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that. So the best way to do this exercise is like just to have like an hour of power of just writing down and removing from your brain all the things onto a list. And then once it's on a list, you can then write next to it like do or delay, or I'm going to pass this on to someone else. And, sometimes you might have resources around the house that you might not even know, like maybe one of the kids finds it really interesting in cutting something out or doing a sorting exercise, put these in alphabetical order. So, there might be some talent lying around or hanging around, or people in your team. And if you don't ask, you don't know. I often ask the team and say, hey, does anyone feel excited about doing this task? And sometimes everyone says, no, it's not for me. I'm very big on making sure that people are in their zone of genius or in their sweet spot and enjoy doing the task, that it fills them up with excitement and joy, and they feel on top of the world after they finish that task. Because I've worked in too many places where I've dragged my feet through tasks and I hated it. And I don't ever want any of our team to feel like that. And so there are times where like our team will meet with me and say, I really hate doing this. The transcriptions is an example of that. They're like, I hate doing the transcriptions. And I'm like, I hate doing it too. So I can relate. Do we need to do it? Let's check the statistics. How many people are clicking on our transcript links? Oh, okay. Out of 10 episodes, 4 people have clicked it. Maybe not a good return on effort for us as a business. And so, there's a lot of slippage and fat that can be maybe trimmed in businesses and in even your own personal life. So managing energy and doing that. So write a list and then, maybe use a color coder, like highlighter. Everything in green, you're going to do. Everything in yellow, you're going to delay. Everything in red, you're going to delete. In fact, with the delete one, I'll just put a line through it. So even better, a black pen. So that way you can't read it. There's no reminder going, oh, maybe I shouldn't have deleted that. That's another decision fatigue. Every time you have to think about something, it compiles to decision fatigue. And that's not a good spot to be in, because I think nowadays more than ever, we're making many, many decisions, more than any other generation. And so, all those things that you can kind of just get sorted, a lot of, entrepreneurs wear the same clothes every day. Like their wardrobe is the same pants, the same t-shirt. So they don't have to think about it. Just put it on and go. Bit boring. Maybe that doesn't excite you. You want to be, have a life full of color. And so you got to know your values and, do as what works for you. You need to know thyself more than anything else. And so maybe even a framework like this doesn't help you as well. You might say, you know what? The only thing I get out of this little presentation is the delete. I agree. I have too many tasks on my list that have been lingering around for too long, and I need to reflect on whether I actually need to do it or not. So dedicate an hour of power to prioritize some of these things, especially if you get into a point where you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not sure like what to work on next. There is also a theory of like doing this the night before, so that way you have a good night's sleep and then you wake up, and somewhere along the research, people say that your brain starts solving problems even in a subconscious level while you're sleeping. So when you wake up in the morning, you might tick a task off quicker because you've had time to sleep on it and let your brain process it. And so doing a task like this at the end of the week, an hour of power on a Friday, that way you know that everything's parked on a piece of paper. You can remove it from your brain and you can relax and enjoy the weekend if you do weekends, and then start fresh on Monday and you look at the list and go, I know exactly what I'm doing. So little framework. I will pop a link to this particular sheet as a reference around the video as well. So yeah, hopefully that's been helpful. Feel free to comment below any of your ideas, tips, tricks, things that work for you. There is no right or wrong way. This is just a different way or a way of thinking. And you can take what you want from it, tweak it into your own method of madness, and whatever works for you. I've tried, those very complicated daily planners where you set your intention and you set your goal and things you're grateful for. And it felt like for me, it became like a task just getting my daily tasks managed. And it's like, I've just spent, for me, I'd much rather be grateful while I'm driving or while I'm walking to work, and I can either, do affirmations in my brain or, I'm definitely someone who does tasks while I'm doing another task. It's very rarely that I'm only ever doing one thing. I'd normally be walking and listening to an audiobook or driving and listening to an audiobook. And like what I said before, while I'm waiting for people to come to a Zoom meeting, I'm doing my emails and so forth. So, learning ways that you get in your own flow state. So that's the main things I wanted to cover off today. Just giving everyone the ability to know that you can either do something, delay it, delete it, or delegate it. So they're the 4 Ds. And any other frameworks, and knowing what's important, what's not important, and what's urgent and not urgent. That's a Stephen Covey kind of framework. I forget what he calls that, but another kind of framework. And the document I showed before is kind of like those two frameworks overlapped together. And it's okay to do things that don't tick things off your list. There needs to be rejuvenation time. There's a big culture now that if you're not hustling, you shouldn't be watching Netflix and things like that. Like, just know yourself and go, oh, I'm a bit low on energy. I'm going to rejuvenate this weekend, and I'm not going to even touch a computer, or I'm going to reduce my screen time. Like, those things are all okay, and there's no right or wrong way. You just got to find a way that fills your cup up and gets you into a state of flow and peak. So yeah, on that note, I think I might wrap it up there. Hopefully you're enjoying these live videos. I'm going to start doing a lot more of these now that I've got the studio set up, or let's call it a studio / office. I'm definitely really enjoying having a space where I can like just turn on the camera and share an idea and a thought. But while I have the opportunity, if you're still listening to the end of this, foot and mouth disease is definitely something that's on every farmer's mind. And so it is in our best interest to support the community and make sure that everyone is aware of what are the potentials. So, always biosecurity is a big concern, and especially from a livestock point of view. So while I have your attention, I just wanted to make that little note about foot and mouth disease and just making sure that we are being cautious. I don't like hearing the fact that there's people say, I landed in Melbourne or Sydney or whatever, and there was no one checking anything. Will you be your own best person and check yourself and make sure you're doing things within the guidelines? I know it's very frustrating when there's these rules and regulations and then there are no checkpoints, but we need to create our own checkpoints and make sure that we are being good carers of the land and other people's livelihoods, because this could turn into something that is not very pleasant for a lot of people. So on that note, I'm Regen Ray, and until next time, get outside, get your hands dirty, make sure you're following biosecurity rules, and until next time, stay curious.